Hey guys, I hope you're all having a great week. So I've got something a little bit different in this week's video. This is a house painting that I just finished, and I did most of it in acrylic paint. The only part that I did with oils was at the very end. I added a little bit into the sky, but I thought it'd be fun to share this time lapse with you. I don't have the full length painting video for you guys, but I promise I've got more full-length videos to come soon, shortly after the holidays, but until then, bear with me. So I've got this time lapse for you here today, and I thought it'd be fun to share it with you and talk a little bit about the process along the way. So let's get started. First things first, let's get the reference photo up on the screen so you can see what I have to work with. Now, this first stage of the painting is really just the blocking in stage. So I'm gonna be very meticulous about this entire part of the painting. I want it to be nice and clean and crisp, but the colors themselves are going to be just solid tones of color. So I'm not adding any detail. I'm just blocking in with the most accurate color to that specific area, that given area that I'm working on. So for the sky, it was just titanium white and ultramarine blue. The siding is just a mixture of titanium white with just a hint of primary yellow, of cad yellow light actually. And then the roof is just a simple gray mixture. So I thought it'd be best to sort of work from the top on down with this whole painting. So now I'm going to the windows and I'm blocking in the windows with the closest color that I can. So each window has a slightly different tone. So what I did here also to help me out is I printed out a actual physical copy of the reference photo on one of the pieces of my fine art paper. So I have a very accurate physical copy of my reference photo as well. And that helps me match the colors as I move along and block in this. So I'm trying to make this again as accurate as I can to the reference. And so having a physical reference photo was a big help as well. So you're going to continue to see me work on the porch area, and this is just using a smaller brush, still blocking in, but it's on a smaller scale, just as there's a lot more detail down in that area. But I'll continue to block in this entire painting, and then I'll go back over the top and kind of start from the top of the house again and work my way down with detail. So now I'm starting to add a little bit of shading, and this is more so the detailed phase. So I'm starting to separate out little things like the cracks in the siding, the shadows in the siding, some shading around the windows, the trim around the windows itself. I'm just getting a little more detailed, and I think primarily at this point I'm doing most of the work with a liner brush and really just taking my time, and I'm looking for any details that I can in the reference photo, such as the siding, and I'm trying to add that wherever I can see it. And so I used a T-ruler for the siding and just lined it up with the edge of the painting just to keep those lines straight, and then I followed with my liner brush along the top edge of that T-ruler to create those nice even lines of the siding, the shading of the siding. And again, the texture on the roof, the shingles, we're actually just using a round brush, and I mixed a slightly darker tone and just spotted on the texture of the shingles, and that created just a nice appearance to the roof as well. Now when I moved to the trees, I started with a darker color as a base, and I planned on adding the highlights over the top. So I mixed a slightly darker green and used again my round brush and just tried to start to detail out any of the leaves and the branches just to give that outline some shape. And same thing with the shadow on the house. I mixed sort of a bluish color and just use that round brush to detail out some shadows. Now at this point you can see me getting really specific with the details. I'm starting to add some objects on the porch, and for the most part I'm just using a liner brush at this point. I may switch to a smaller filbert brush which has that lighter yellowish ochre handle, that yellowish peaches colored handle, but the red handle is my liner brush, and I'm just starting to add some highlights to the trees, highlights to anything I can find, the plants, the pots, the chairs on the porch. I'm just detailing out any bit of highlight I can find. So you can see I darken that tree on the right as well, and I'll be adding the highlights over the top of that, just spotting on, just pixelating those highlights. So I added some darker shadows to start with, and then I go back over the top with a lighter green color, and those will act as the highlights in the trees, and that just sort of brings that tree to life, adds a lot of three-dimensional look to it. And the grass was created in a similar way, just adding some lighter highlights to the darker tone that I laid down. And I used a liner brush and then also a small rake brush just to add some random textures to that grass. Now, when I got to the street, I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. I tried a sponge at first, and that sponge didn't quite work out, so I ended up switching to a fan brush. and I just spotted on some random textures in the street just to make it look more like asphalt. So I used some darker tone and then some lighter gray, some darker gray and lighter gray, and just spotted on texture with a fan brush, and that gave a nice look to the foreground. So the people in front of the house was a bit of a challenge, but I basically used the same process. I blocked in each color with a solid tone, and then I went back over the top with my liner brush and added a little bit of highlights and a little bit of shadows. And I thought that produced a nice result. In the end, I was happy with the people as well. So now you can see everything is sort of switched color here. This is where I begin the oils, so I sprayed it with a clear coat, and I've begun to add some white over the top of the sky just to add a bit of glow on the horizon, and then you'll see me add some clouds in the sky. And what I've done here is just mixed some alkyd, some galkyd or liquin from Winsor & Newton. It's also the same thing. I've used an alkyd medium with some white and just fanned on some fluffy clouds. So here's the finished result. In the end, I was very pleased with it. I left most all of it in acrylic paint. The only part that has oils is, of course, the clouds in the sky. I thought the acrylics did a wonderful job with this, so I was very happy. If you guys had any feedback or you'd like to see me cover something specific related to this type of subject matter, if you'd like to see me cover more buildings and such in future full-length tutorials, I'd be happy to do so. So until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. I will be producing some more full-length videos in the near future. And again, thank you. We'll see you next time.